What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Always happy to see you guys here, and welcome back to my I Know What You Did Last Summer film review series. With the release of the new film just around the corner, I thought I'd take the time to talk about all three of these leading up to the new one, followed by a ranking, so watch out for that. I will not be including the Amazon Prime TV show series that came out a few years ago. And as a reminder, if you've not watched it yet, I do have the review for the first film in the description down below, so check that out when you can. Released in 1998, just a year after the first film, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer follows Julie James and her friends who wins this free trip to the Bahamas. While they are there, Julie's horrid past comes to light as they are stalked one by one by a hook-wielding killer. Now, I will say firsthand, I am unapologetically a fan of this film, of this entry. This is by far one of my favorites in this entry thus far. Growing up, this is the one that I always seem to pop in the most over that first film. This is the one that always seemed to grab my attention the most. And I think it's just because of the atmosphere and just the overall tone in this differ from that first film, but this one seemed to have always caught my interest the most, especially growing up. Now, I'm not saying that this film doesn't have its problems. It definitely has its problems. That goes without saying. There's a slew of problems which I'll get into here in a little bit, but for the most part, this one has always been the most enjoyable to me. But this is also the one that unfortunately killed the franchise for most. Now, starting off with the positives for I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Again, I found this to be the most watchable out of the two that had come out at the time. It was a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more tolerable. Not that I'm saying that I hated that first one, but that first one was just a little bit too Hitchcockian for my taste. Yes, it had a good story. It had one of those mystery plots that just made you think a lot. But it just seemed like I always wanted more, and with I Still Know, I kind of got that. Just a little bit. I kind of got that. Despite its problems that it has, I still got a little bit more out of this film than I did that original one. It just seemed to have always entertained me the most since my younger teenage years, since I first got into these. It just always stuck with me the most, and it just is what it is. You got Jennifer Love Hewitt here, who returns, who, again, to me is just the ultimate scream queen of this franchise. She was just great here, and just like the first film, she did a really good job as Julie James. And you get Freddie Prinze Jr. who comes back, who I thought they did a little bit of a better job here than they did in that first film. Like that first film, they tried to play it off as the red herring sort of type of character, which is why he was absent the most. He still doesn't show up as much in this one, but he does just a little bit, probably just a smidge bit more. But I thought they wrote his character in a little bit more, because I always thought that his character was sort of a throwaway character, which was sort of a waste, because I like Freddie Prinze Jr. Here, I thought they wrote him a little bit better. He basically spends the whole entire film trying to get to Julie and trying to save her, and makes this whole journey to try to get to her after he gets attacked and injured, and it kind of makes him like the knight in shining armor of this film to try to save her. And I thought that side to his character was really fun and enjoyable. I thought that just gave him more to work with. Like I said, I always thought he was more of a throwaway character than anything else, but in this, at least they tried. Even though they still didn't really give him much screen time, he just had a little bit more than that first film. But I thought he was written better, at least. From a visual standpoint, there are certain elements to this film, especially when it came to the stormy elements of the island atmosphere, I really did enjoy. It just gave it that sort of a creepy vibe, and just the fact that it was in a stormy situation, rain coming down, you could see the lightning in the background. I really did find that enjoyable, especially from a slasher visual standpoint. Like, first of all, you have this slasher that's set in this stormy weather, which is pretty much the cliche ever since Friday the 13th, which I'm not saying that's always good, but for this film, especially from a visual standpoint, you have all those overhead shots of the island with the lightning in the background and the rain coming down, and just that creepy grayness that this film brought. To me, that was pretty good. That was pretty enjoyable. And I really did like that element of this film. It just gave it that creepy vibe, and it just amped it up for me. Now for my final positive. As much as I enjoyed that first film for what it was, especially from a story standpoint, it was just a little too Hitchcockian for me. With the lack of blood and gore and carnage candy, I love my carnage candy. That's one of the things that kind of held that first film for me back from wanting to pop it in as much, from wanting to watch it as much. Here, and I Still Know, you do get a little bit more, not much, but you do get a little bit more. A lot of the kills does happen off screen. Well, there's one or two kills that happens off screen, but it was very effective, especially with the aftermath. This is one of the reasons why I was so attracted to this one the most, especially when I got into these growing up, was because it does seem like the more logic of the slashers of these three. And that's one of the reasons why I've always been, again, attracted to this one the most. There was some creative kills in this. It wasn't just stabby stab or hooky hook. It was just genuine kills that you would want from a true slasher. And again, you still don't get much, but it does triumph over that original film. I mean, hell, there's a guy that fell on top of this girl that already had a spear stuck inside of him. And the killer walks up right behind him while the guy's on top of this girl, and he takes that spear and just jabs it down even further and stabs her. That was always pretty effective to me. I mean, especially growing up watching this and first getting into this and first watching this, I was like, damn, that was awesome. Now on to my mixed. I never really had a problem with the stoner character played by Jack Black. Now, a lot of people will say that that's the most annoying character in the world. I think even in the first Scary Movie, they even made a comment about it saying, oh, what about that stoner character? I'd just like to kill that mofo. Me, I've never really had a problem with him. Yeah, there was certain elements to him that did kind of annoy me, but because it's Jack Black, I'm kind of incapable of having any hate towards the guy, because especially since the time of this film's release, he's come out with some awesome bangers. And he's just one of those actors that I really liked ever since I was a teen. And because it's him, he's just one of those characters in this film that just gets a laugh out of you. And that's what he definitely did for me. He's just one of those background stoner type characters that just shows up for a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of a relief. Again, I understand why a lot of people just hated that character. But for me, because it's Jack Black, I give him a pass. Moving on to the negatives, there were certain characters in this film that I just could not stand in the least. Like Mekhi Phifer's character, who does nothing but complain. He doesn't want to listen to voice of reason. He's basically a douche throughout this whole entire movie. Well, like, not the whole entire film, but still. There was certain moments to where his character just annoyed the living crap out of me. In this film, he was just written very poorly, and they just did not do a good job with his character at all. Then you have the supposed best friend to Hewitt's character in Brandy, who does nothing but be demanding. She doesn't give her a chance to speak her own mind. In the case of Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character, she's always like is dismissive of him. It's like he's made his bed. He needs to lie in it. He's trying to get a career going for himself and make a good life for himself. Like, what girl want that, really? Instead, she tries to get Hewitt's character into going with this other guy, Will, which I'll get into here in a little bit, who does nothing but just be creepy. That just adds nothing to what is trying to be done here. And it's like, no, go with this guy. Go with this Will guy. Just do him. Forget Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character, who's trying to make a life for himself and trying to build a career for himself and trying to do better. I mean, what girl doesn't want that, really? Then you have this Will character who just comes off as creepy. And he's basically the guy that Brandy tries to hook up Jennifer Hewitt's character with. And he does nothing but just sit in the background and just complains and whines. When he's picking him up for the vacation at the beginning of this film, he's like, I don't know why I'm here, but whatever, just touch it. So yeah, completely annoying characters. Definitely a step down from that first film. At least that first film had substance to its characters. And there's an element to this story that made no sense whatsoever, to where you have this fake contest to where they win this Bahamas trip, And you have this whole thing to where the killer attacks Ray on this highway, and only to put himself through all this trouble to try to get Julie into going to this island to kill her there in the rain, which makes no sense whatsoever. It's just so convoluted and just so overstuffed to where, why would you put yourself through that? If you want somebody dead, then just go do it. You don't have to move locations or anything. I mean, the campus that she was in at the beginning of this film would have been just fine. It would have been like a Scream 2 scenario. But they just had to go through this whole thing to where they set up this fake contest. The question that they answered wasn't even right at all, of course, obviously. And then they go to this island only to be attacked over there instead of where they were. Why go through all that? And then plus the fact that they try this red herring thing to where they try to play it off like who the killer is, but it's blatantly obvious. We already know who the killer is. It's Ben Willis. It's Muse Watson, which is another weird factor of this film. One of the many reasons why I think this is the reason why this killed the franchise, where they put so much into this to where if you go to a slasher film, you don't really need to expect much. But they try to make this almost in a Shakespearean way to where you don't necessarily have to do that, and it doesn't work. And that's painfully obvious at this point. Don't get me wrong, I still love this one. This one's still one of my favorite ones in this franchise. But still, going through all that, especially with the story and the narrative, again, he could have just very easily killed her at the campus and just made a whole thing about it right there instead of just getting everybody on this island, which is just, to me, is like a complete waste of time narratively and realistically. Again, it would have made it a pretty cool Scream 2 scenario, which this film actually came out a year after that, so that would have made more sense to do it that way instead of what they did.
God, you sick freak.
And I've kind of touched on the Will character a little bit, but they play all these reveals on who the killer is. We know who it is, but the way that they reveal this guy, this Will character, to be the killer's son, I just never really understood that. I never really could get into that. And just the way that he speaks is like, come on, you get it? Will Benton, Ben's son. Dude, come on, get the heck out of here. So that was just cheesy within itself. That was just I guess you could call that a regular cheesy slasher cliche. But it really wasn't even a cliche. It was just bad. But in the end, guys, was this the most effective to me? Yes, but was it the most ridiculous? Oh, hell yeah. But it was still entertaining. It was still enjoyable. I still liked it. I still enjoyed it a little bit more than that first film, but as far as the story goes, I still know they could have improved. Of course, this was without Kevin Williamson, so red flag there. But in the end, this one was fine. It was good. I can understand why a lot of people didn't like it. I can understand why this killed the franchise. But in the end, it was still a happy accident. I still know what you did last summer. What was your thoughts on this? Were you a fan of this one? Were you a fan of the whole island atmosphere setting? Were you a fan of what they did with the story? Maybe you're somebody that actually did like the direction that this went in. If so, then that's great. But if not, or you somebody that despised this one, was the first one your favorite? God help you if the third one was your favorite. Still no judgment here. And we'll get into that here later. Overall, what was your thoughts on this one? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking here and watching this. As always, I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing if you like what you see. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.